I'm Erin, the host of Women on a Mission. Join us as we get real with women who've decided to live life on their own terms, sharing their struggles and successes, celebrating progress, not perfection. Hopefully this community will inspire you to boldly be a little bit more of who you are as you navigate the amazing, messy journey of being a woman who is 100% unapologetically herself. Today's episode is with Kim Chambers, a world record-breaking female open water swimmer. After a freak accident left her 30 minutes away from amputating her leg, luckily that didn't happen, she was given a 1% chance of ever walking again. Unwilling to accept her diagnosis, she worked to rehab her leg, and this woman went from not being a swimmer to being the third woman and sixth person ever to complete the Ocean Sevens challenge. What I love most about this interview is how raw and real Kim gets. We're talking about some of her swims, but mostly we're going behind the scenes and digging into things like body image, being a female in a male-dominated sport, how to be a graceful and powerful woman. We're talking about her discipline and how she trains. She lists out her daily schedule, and I was tired just listening to it. Also, for anyone who struggles with wanting to start something but having a full-time job, Kim talks about how she manages her day job at Adobe with her passion for swimming. I love seeing women step into their power and own their story. So often we just don't know how to get our messages out into the world. And I was lucky enough to be able to work with Kim to overhaul her brand and website to really put her message out into the world in a way that reflected her values and her mission. From her TEDx talk to becoming the first woman to ever swim from the Farallon Islands to San Francisco, Kim inspires people to push past their limits, face their fears, and live their best life.
I love showing people what's possible. If you think you can't do something or if you're afraid of doing something, that's exactly when you should do it. And if you just push yourself just a little more than you think you can, I think you might be surprised.
Do you ever feel like you can't brag, or do you ever feel like you want to, or that's a lot of attention?
I just tell people I like to swim. Like, I'm Kim and I like to swim. But it'll be my friends. It'll be like, oh, she's done this, this, and that. And then I'll turn bright red and I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I did that too. A lot of it I am still struggling to come to terms with. The fact that when you put your mind and your body to a goal, you can achieve it. Like, really, we can achieve anything that we set our mind to. And I feel like I've shown myself that. That being said, I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary of my Farallon Islands swim. I honestly can put my hand on my heart and tell you that I am still struggling to process the fact that I took a little boat ride out there and got in the water at 11:15 at night. I mean, it was pitch black and you don't know what's going to happen. And I mean, it was the scariest thing that I've ever done. And it wasn't like somebody was forcing me to do it or putting a gun to my head. Like, I wanted to do it and there was no part of me that was going to not do it. But yeah, I still have trouble accepting the fact that I've done those and that is the person that I am today. I don't fully grasp it in my head.
When it comes for you, for like whether it is pushing fear or limiting beliefs, where does that come from?
My life changed when, I had a freak fall down a staircase on my way to work. It's just been 10 years. I've just passed my 10-year anniversary. And, I didn't break any bones, but I ended up with acute compartment syndrome and blunt force trauma to my right leg. It kept swelling. And long story short, I was 30 minutes from amputation. They saved my leg. And then I was given a 1% chance of ever walking unassisted again. And, it took me 2 years to walk again. And at the time I thought it was the worst possible thing that could ever happen to me. But now I say with such pride that it was really the best thing that ever happened to me because it transformed my life and it allowed me to discover this inner drive. I mean, I've always been a driven person in terms of like, at school, I was always wanted to be the perfect student and I was always the good girl and a perfectionist. But for me, when I literally had the rug pulled out from underneath me and incapacitated for 2 years, you really find what you're made of. And there's nothing quite like proving people wrong. What I've achieved just in terms of athleticism was never even imagined for me by the surgeons. And
you weren't even supposed to walk.
Right. And I feel like I was given a tremendous gift. And what a waste it would be is if I just sort of lounged around and did nothing. I feel like this happened for a reason, and I, through through facing my fears and pushing through them, I really have learned that like the real treasure in my life is right on the other side of where I'm most fearful and where I'm most afraid and most uncomfortable, because you break through and you look back and you're like, I did that. You're sort of left with this disbelief, as I am, but it's an amazing, empowering feeling for myself. And it's something that nobody can take away from me. You know, money comes and goes, relationships come and go, but these achievements, each one has sort of pushed me through to this next level of learning about myself. And I tell people I feel like my soul has a few more wrinkles with each of these adventures. So, yeah, I think it just comes from that injury, and then being out there in the wild, it's so primal and all your senses are heightened, and I just want more of it.
Going back to the proving people wrong, I know that you've come so far, but like, how did you get past the depression or the anger? That's such dedication for 2 years to keep pushing. How do you stay grounded? How do you stay motivated? What do you do?
I think it's just having experienced that sense of achievement, that the joy, the pain, that everything with each of these swims that I've done. You know, there's a lot of discipline that comes into even getting to the point where you're dipping your toe in the water. But I had 15 years as a ballerina, so I am sort of wired to sort of just focus.
You got discipline down.
Oh, I got that down. And actually, I wish I had a little less discipline. Sometimes I wish I could just be like, nah, you know, I'm not going to swim today. I'm going to sleep in. So it's sort of that part. I've had that from the years as a ballerina.
Well, and that before this accident, you weren't a swimmer.
No, I wasn't. No, I mean, I'd learned water safety as a kid in New Zealand.
You could doggy paddle and freestyle.
Yeah. And, you know, if I fell into a pool with clothes on, I could tread water. I mean, I was terrified to like get in a pool for that very first time, not because I was really worried about my swim stroke. It was just I had these massive scars. And, you know, I look back now and I'm like, gosh, that was so just the superficial thinking. And from that point, I feel like I really transformed as a person. Yeah.
We've had a conversation where we were talking about the amazing component of like what you're asking your body to do. You're swimming open water Arctic swims. You're putting on 40 pounds. You're losing it. You are actually pushing your body. So from the background of like being a ballerina, these scars, you're asking your body to perform. How does that affect how you feel as a woman?
Yeah, it's interesting, actually. So, you know, as a ballerina, a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips, anytime we grabbed a snack. So coming from that mentality where, you know, you're stick thin, and that is celebrated and mandatory in many ways, to be able to appreciate the human body even when it's gained a lot of weight. And for these swims, I think what helped it switch in my head was that it is a matter of life or death. I don't wear a wetsuit for any of my swims. I follow traditional English Channel rules. So that means no wetsuit, just a regular lycra swimsuit, a latex swim cap, goggles, and earplugs. So
you are insane.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. And I mean, even if you'd asked me 10 years ago if I'd be talking to you about this, it's just bizarre. But I've come to appreciate my body as this vessel, and it has to be as seaworthy as possible. So it has been this amazing personal triumph for me over like body image to see, you know, 40 more pounds on my body. I'm 5'10". And for my swim last year, I was attempting to swim from Sacramento to San Francisco, and it was going to be 2 days of nonstop swimming. And so you gain weight to basically help protect you from the cold. But I clocked in at 195. And I mean, the ballerina Kim would have been horrified because there's some extra weight there. But to see that on my frame and to feel empowered, my body is my vessel, and I have to take great care to make sure that it is going to perform at the level that it needs to. And for marathon swimming, if you put all the top marathon swimmers in the world in a lineup and you were asked to pick one of them as a world-class athlete, you would never pick any of them. You can't be super skinny in the sport, and it just doesn't matter. And to also be in a swimsuit every day and just to celebrate your body, I think it's an amazing feeling.
I mean, what you ask it to do. I have been I've been training for swimming, just so you know, for the last
Oh,
3 weeks.
oh,
I
hello.
can clock a whopping 30 minutes in the pool.
Yes.
And let me tell you, that shit is hard. Like,
Yeah.
after 30 minutes, I'm like walking around like Rocky. I am the champion. When
Yeah,
you say
it's hard
swim
work.
for 2 days, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's slightly more than 30 minutes.
I actually missed the opportunity to swim for 2 days. I was trained for it, but my swim was cut short after 24 hours and 17 minutes because the winds had kicked up. And
That's another aspect. You are
yeah,
in open water. There are factors that you cannot control.
yes. And I'm probably a bit of a control freak. I organize my life in a certain way.
I didn't get that from all this discipline you
You
keep
did-
talking
oh,
about.
okay. Oh,
You
okay.
seem very
Well,
spontaneous and like
not
artsy
obvious at all.
fartsy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And so, but to be able to, I actually really love that thrill of, you've done everything that you can. And that's why I probably train in the way that I do, because I want to know that at the end, when it's all said and done, whatever the outcome, that I can tell myself I gave it everything. Because a lot of it is out of my control. And oddly enough, that is very much part of the allure for me, because as a human being, you're putting yourself in an environment for which we are ill-equipped. We're not supposed to be in the ocean. And there's the wildlife. There are sharks. There are jellyfish. It's just, we're asking a lot of our bodies to do this.
I mean, already just hearing that you're not wearing a wetsuit when you swam the English Channel, you're swimming some cold water.
Yeah.
And if you could talk a little bit about your jellyfish swim.
Yeah.
What we can push past so much more. You kept going. Like,
yeah. I don't remember it, but I did it. Yeah.
So for people who don't know that story, can you fill us in?
Absolutely. So the jellyfish swim, which for me was the North Channel from Northern Ireland to Scotland. You're talking about 53, 54 degree water for a distance of at least 21 miles. And when I say, you can't be that exact because the currents kind of move you north and south. So you end up kind of doing an S across that stretch of water. This was part of the Ocean 7 Challenge, which is the open water swimming equivalent of the 7 summits of mountaineering. And I'd done 6 of the 7. This was my last of the Ocean 7. I was hoping to become the 6th person in the world to do this. So I had a lot of personal pressure and also the expense of traveling to Northern Ireland, and I'd made it very public. So I was going all out, and I was not going to finish until I was done. What I was most worried about the swim was the cold water. So talking to the mental aspect of things and the physical, I gained a tremendous amount of weight. I trained in the San Francisco Bay religiously. I didn't take a warm shower for 6 months. And that's hard after you do like a 10 or 12-hour training swim in the bay. I mean, the reward is standing under a warm shower and then sitting in a hot sauna. That's heaven. So I denied myself all of that. And
I'm like, a cold shower is hard when I roll out of bed and then covered in my apartment having done nothing. But I'm like, oh, that's a little chilly.
Yeah. Well, you're numb anyways when you get out of the water, so it doesn't really impact you that much. But to train my body to generate heat. Mm-hmm. So I've done extensive reading, and everyone has different theories. I had even gone so far as ordering one of those little kiddie pools for toddlers, on Amazon. And at the time I lived in a place with a backyard, so I bought this little kiddie pool. I put the hose in, and I had bags of ice from Safeway, chuck them in there, and then I would force myself to sit in the cold water with the ice on a Saturday afternoon for as long as I could, and I'd read magazines, and my neighbors could see, and they never ever said anything to me, but I could tell that they were questioning my sanity. So that was what my focus for the swim. I also knew about the jellyfish. There are jellyfish called lion's mane, and their gelatinous bells are sort of the size of a mini car tire, and their tentacles go 12 to 15 feet below the surface. And there were news articles just in the weeks leading up to my swim about a bloom of these jellyfish, and my boat pilot told me, a local guy from Northern Ireland, he said, if you get stung in your first hour because of the toxins, the likelihood of you finishing your swim are very slim. Mm-hmm. And this swim was going to take me between 12 and 15 hours. So I started off at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the reason being is you time it based on the movement of the water. So I wanted to arrive at Scotland on an incoming tide. So if it was an outcoming tide, it would have been impossible to get to land. So we started about 4 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black. I got stung in that first hour. I didn't tell my crew, and continue to keep swimming. I do have a high pain tolerance, thanks to being a ballerina. But the pain I experienced was unlike anything I've ever encountered. As the daylight came, you could see all of the jellyfish. It was like swimming through landmines of jellyfish. They were everywhere. And so my crew would blow a whistle and I'd stop, because when you've got your head down, you can't see what's in front of you. So I'd hear the whistle and I'd stop, and they'd go, Kim, move to your left. No, move to your right. And this was how I was navigating through the jellyfish. Their tentacles would wrap around my legs. Long story short, my body that was well prepared for the cold was using that energy to fight the toxins rather than keep me warm. I don't remember touching Scotland. I got some swims you have to get out if there's a clear beach. Other swims, if it's too dangerous, you just touch a rock, and there's an observer on the boat recording all of this and making sure you did it. I don't remember finishing that. I don't remember finishing what was my Ocean 7. I became the third woman ever to complete that. They hauled me onto the boat, and one of my crewmates and dear friends, he stuck to his promise, which was to shower me with Guinness beer upon being put on the boat, and I look like a cadaver. I look like a dead person. I have that photo. And then they got me on board. I warmed up. I was chatting. I was fine, and went back to where we were staying in Northern Ireland, and just started to get really emotional about what I had done. Then I had difficulty breathing. I was put in a respiratory ward in Northern Ireland, and then I was flown back to America, and I spent a week in a cardiac ward here in San Francisco. And that was my jellyfish swim.
You're smashing world records. Not even just for, yes, for women, but like in general, you're putting everyone to shame. Do you ever feel like people are looking at you going, you're crazy, and you're thinking to yourself, am I crazy? Or are you just so focused? Like, how does public opinion, whether it be praise or criticism, how does that sway you, or does it sway you?
People think you're crazy here even if you just swim in the San Francisco Bay, but I don't mind being a little bit different. I never imagined that this was going to be my life, but I feel so fulfilled. My heart is so full. I feel like my life is so rich. I've had experiences that, I know few will ever have. And I don't say that to boast. I say that because I just feel so lucky. I feel so lucky that I am able, for whatever reason, to push my body in this way. Because when I am out there in the ocean, I don't know, I'm so drawn to that thrill. Yeah, and I don't want to be ordinary.
What I find super inspiring about your story is you built this. You chose this. One day you woke up and you made a decision, and you have sacrificed personal comfort. You have sacrificed, money and time and energy, and I'm sure friends and social life and all, so that you can be up in the morning to swim. And you really built this for yourself.
Yeah. But I'm the first to say that I didn't do it alone. And I think that really has been like the key to all of this, because it's hard for me to ask for help. So along the way, I have been gifted with so much help and encouragement. And I have a really wonderful support network of friends and mentors. Vito Biala, who is part of Night Train Swimmers. He was the one that believed in me when nobody did. And he'll tell you, like, when he met me, he said I couldn't swim my way out of a paper bag with flippers on. And he was absolutely right. But he took a chance on me. And I wish for everyone that they could be so lucky as to just have someone say, I believe in you. That's really a big part of all of this, is that I didn't do it alone. Sure, I am self-motivated, but I've been really lucky with the people that I've met and the people that have encouraged me. And I've also learned I live in I call it my bubble of positivity. I've learned to ignore the naysayers, because there are naysayers. And I tend to just use that as fuel for my fire, to just say, well, you think I can't do that? Well, I'll show you.
Okay, so one of the things that I'm wanting to do with this podcast is to shine light on the hows. We read all these articles and we meet all these people, and maybe it's just my little mind, but my mind is always like, how does that work? So just for people that don't know, you have a full-time job in addition to this.
I do. Yes,
So
yes.
can you kind of fill in what is the daily schedule? How do you manage this? Where do you sacrifice? How do you pay your bills? Like
Yeah,
logistically, how does this
yeah,
work?
yeah. That's a good question. So I do have a day job. I have a fabulous day job. I work at Adobe. You know, when I was rehabilitating my leg for 2 years, I didn't work. I was doing freelance work before that. But for those 2 years, I committed my life to rehabilitating my leg, doing everything. And that was my full time job. When I could finally walk unassisted, it was time for me I needed to make some money. And I applied everywhere. I ended up getting a 1 month contract here at Adobe. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, wow, even it's just a month, but that's fine. They kept renewing my contract. Then they hired me full time. And it has been a place for me that has really allowed me to grow. And as I've been transformed by these swims, I've transformed here. Adobe has been tremendously supportive of me. But I have also made a point of only using my vacation time for my swims. So instead of lying on a beach in Hawaii for my paid time off, I have been swimming through jellyfish infested waters and
It's about the
ending up.
same. It's about the same. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, when I'm really training, an example is waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, driving to Marin to train with a team in a pool there I'd get there early, so I'd do an extra hour or 2 hours. Then I'd meet with the team. Then I'd be on the Golden Gate Bridge at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd be in the bay at Aquatic Park from like 7:30 to 8:30, and I would be pulling up here at work at 9 o'clock. My hair would be soaking wet, but if I turned up to work with dry hair, people would be like, "Are you okay?" So I kind of trained people to just expect me to show up with hair soaking wet,
You're
and
still in
then
your
I would.
bathing suit walking to the office.
Yeah, yeah. And then at work, people were quite understanding of me stuffing my face during meetings, so fueling myself and doing my work thing. And then at the end of the day, coming home, lifting weights, stretching, foraging for food, and then going to bed at 8 o'clock because sleep is so important with all this training. But that was kind of like a weekday schedule. When I was training for the Sacramento to San Francisco swim, I was training to swim for 2 days nonstop. So I would do that schedule, and then on Friday nights I would come home from work. Then I would drive up to Marin and I would swim in the Belvedere Lagoon for 12 hours. So I'd do the equivalent of an English Channel. I'd swim through the night on Friday night, ignoring all the texts from my friends saying, let's go out, let's go do this, that. Then I would come home, shower, have breakfast, and then I would stay awake all day Saturday. I would go walk friends' dogs. I don't even remember what I did, but I wouldn't operate heavy machinery like a car because you're so sleep deprived, safety first. But then I would go to sleep on that Saturday night and either have Sunday as a rest day and do it all over again. And I did that particular training schedule for 3 months nonstop.
I mean, first of all, you're a beast. But what about all of that dedication, all of that preparation, and then to have that trip ripped away from you? How did you manage that feeling?
What I love about each of these swims is I do get a little lesson and a learning or an understanding. I think a year or two prior, I would have seen that as a failure. But going back to my training plan and saying to myself, at the end of the day, I can tell myself I gave it everything. Like there wasn't a Friday night where I was like, oh, I'm just going to go out with friends and not do that swim. I felt really satisfied that I knew that it was out of my control because you can't swim in 30 knot sustained winds. The most you can swim in is like 10 knots. So I knew that was out of my control, but I got on the boat and I just smiled. I was totally okay with it. But a year or two prior, I would have been a blubbering mess. I would have chalked it up as a failure and been really disappointed myself.
So there's also a lot of isolation. Outside of fellow swimmers, where do you get that community? Do you have it?
I do. I have a great community of swim friends, and I talk as much as I swim, and I get made fun of for that. So it is very social, and I make it that way. There are some swimmers that are very isolated where they train alone, and those swims I did on the Friday nights, I had so much fun. We'd bring glow sticks and attach them to the buoys, and when you get cold, you get silly, and so I really do enjoy those swims. But I also have a group of friends that aren't swimmers that are just my rocks. and I can cry with them. I can go out and be silly with them. They respect and understand what I do, and so I could call them up at any point and go out. Yeah, I certainly, when I'm really training, I don't have a very active social life, but I don't feel lonely. There is a point after these big swims where there is sort of a drop, if you will. So like I love when I know that I'm going for a goal and I'm going and going and going, and then you complete the swim, or in the case of the Sacramento swim, I didn't complete my goal, but I was satisfied. Then there's this sort of reintegration back into life that is empty. Training fills a lot of time. It makes you feel purposeful. And then the idea of hanging out on a Saturday and not really having a plan is strange.
Am I really just day drinking in the park? Like, is that,
yeah, exactly.
Is that the end all be all of my life?
Yeah. And you feel different. And I know that like I can't always be going for these big adventures, but for whatever reason now, it's just I'm hardwired to think that way. You know, it does make dating a challenge. I am still looking for a husband, but. I was
going to say, do you feel pressure to like be married, have kids? Do you feel that pressure, and do you want that? And how does that fit into all of this?
I think in New Zealand, I definitely, there was a tabloid magazine that did a big article, said Kiwi looking for love. And it was just that.
Please apply here.
Yeah. But it was like, I definitely get the sense there that you're not a complete adult. You're not a complete woman unless. It would be even okay if I was like a solo mom, like it wasn't even married. It's a different lifestyle there. But I feel like San Francisco has given me permission to just be me. And I'll find that guy for me, but it's not something that is going to make me personally feel like, yes, I am more of an adult. I would like a companion like that, but I think he needs to be somebody who understands all of the components of this. It's not just about swimming. It's about pushing myself. And, I give back to a number of charities, and I love helping people. I love feeling of purpose. So, yeah, it's strange. I just turned 40, and, you do start to think about these things.
I've gotten to the point where now my friends' the kids have now started talking about whether or not I'm having kids. And I've watched them have conversations. And one little girl goes, "Do you have a boyfriend?" I go, "No." "Why?" "I have one." Well, congratulations. And another group of kids were like, "No, she's too old for kids. She doesn't want them." And I'm like, did we decide that? Did we decide that collectively? And so it's interesting to see, especially from someone so innocent as a kid, being like, "Why aren't you a mom?"
Yeah. So it does just sort of go back and forth in my head, and I'm already planning my next adventures, and I want someone that can keep up with me. And I
just put the baby in the ice bath next to you.
Right.
Strap her to your back, swim the English Channel.
Child Protective Services will not be calling my house at all.
Not at all.
Totally normal.
One of the questions that I'm asking everybody is, what is your definition of a woman on a mission? And I love hearing the different perspectives, of everyone, and also how similar and different they are to my definition. What is your definition of a woman on a mission?
What comes to mind immediately is a quote that I just found today. Marianne Williamson, who is amazing. And I came across this quote today, and I think that this really, for me, sums up a woman on a mission. "Success means we go to sleep at night knowing that our talents and abilities were used in a way that served others." And that, I think, for me, sums up a woman on a mission.
As you look through how you want to serve and how you want to keep serving and what this looks like, what is your vision?
I love showing people what's possible, inspiring others to realize for themselves that we're capable of far more than we think we are. And it doesn't mean you have to go swim from England to France across the English Channel. But I think that if it scares you, I think you have to go straight for it. And that's really where I've learned the most in these years as a swimmer. And, I've said, if you think you can't do something, or if you're afraid of doing something, that's exactly when you should do it. And if you just push yourself just a little more than you think you can, I think you might be surprised. And I think that's me as a woman on a mission. And I think that success is showing people, young girls especially. I had a really wonderful interaction with a 7-year-old yesterday. She'd done a school project on me. She wanted a picture with me, and she wanted me to, a little autograph. In a time where the Kardashian family are celebrated and young girls especially look to them for body norms, I'm putting that in quotes, or behaviors as to how you should conduct yourself as a woman, I think it's more important than ever before that women share what we're doing. It's not about boasting it. It's not about shouting from the rooftops. It's just about leading from example and really showing what's possible, and that you can still be a graceful, elegant woman as a powerful woman. You can still be tremendously strong physically and mentally. Yeah, I think that's a woman on a mission.
Where does that power show up for you? Is it your sense of accomplishment when you push yourself? Is it intimidating socially when you are, this force at dinner? Like, is it your personality? Is it your drive? Like, how does that manifest positively and negatively in your life?
Positively, it's the empowerment from having achieved, completed the swims that I have done. And, and it really only occurred to me, I was just talking with my mum when I was home in New Zealand last week, and she said, do you realize that with the swims that you've done, but you're not in a separate category or a separate course. So you think, for example, like the women's Olympic swimming. Mm-hmm. The women are judged by a different world record time than the men, competing in the pool with just women. With open water swimming, the playing field is even. You are going right up against men, and you're doing it on the same course, the same standards. Mm-hmm. I think that's very, very empowering. As a woman. So I think for me, that's really positive. I think the negative is just that people think you're just a bit weird, and I don't know. Maybe they think also that I'm just this person that just exercises and works out all the time and just doesn't have fun. Like, I have a lot of fun. I have a wonderful life, and I feel really, really lucky.
You are sharing that example this fall with the world with your documentary.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So there's this film coming out about my life.
Kids do projects about me at school. There's like documentary. It's super normal.
Yeah. So again, very surreal. And it started off as this photographer, Kate Weber, who was wanting to transition into film. And she just said, I think your story is inspiring, and I'd love to just film part of what you're doing. And it just sort of grew legs. Yeah, it's called Kim Swims. And that's me.
I'm Kim. I like swimming. That sentence has a very different meaning after listening to this whole interview.
Yeah, and so the film crew captured all of my Farallon swim, and there's footage that nobody's seen.
You swam through shark-infested waters for the Farallons.
Yes.
Like, you're not just braving jellyfish. You're braving Jaws.
Yeah. The largest concentration of great white sharks anywhere in the world is out there at the Farallon Islands. So that's 30 miles off the coast of San Francisco. And just beyond that is the continental shelf. So you get this huge upwelling of nutrients. It's this marine sanctuary. It's just teeming with life. But yeah, the great white sharks, that's where they frequent. Their main source of food is the elephant seals. And
which you look like when you're swimming through the Farallons.
Exactly. So, yeah, that was the scariest thing that I've ever done. I mean, 2 years later, I still can't believe that I did it. I became the first and only woman ever to swim 30 miles from those islands to San Francisco. Yeah, I can't believe that I did that. And I didn't do it alone. I had an amazing team. I had 2 boats, one with a thermal imaging device to detect any sharks. And there are parts of it that are very, very vivid in my head. There are parts that I don't remember because the adrenaline is just, surging through your body. It's just, you're just locked in. And I had this really funny moment where I was about to get in the water to begin that swim, and it's 11:15 at night. And again, the timing is based on wanting to finish this on an incoming tide. So we wanted to, based on my swim speed, and I'm not fast, I'm just, 2 miles an hour, so that I would be coming in underneath the Golden Gate Bridge on a flood. So that's why we started at 11:15 at night. And I'm just sort of sitting there collecting my thoughts and really hoping that I'm not about to jump into the mouth of a great white shark. There could be one just swimming by, who knows? So that was what was going through my head. And then my mum pops her head over and she's like, well, hurry up then, get in. And I was like, Mum, I'm having a moment here, please. And so
this might be my last moment.
Yeah. So it was, but everyone was just so amped up. It was like, let's just get in and get the hell out of here, because there's sort of we call it a 3-mile ecosystem. So sort of 3 miles around those islands are probably the riskiest part of the swim. You just want to get in and get out of there.
And I love how casually you keep dropping first woman ever, one of 3 women ever. I mean, this is amazing. Like world record smashing.
Yeah. But I'm just Kim, and I'm really silly, and I like to swim and I like to talk, and I'm just from a farm in New Zealand.
For people who are listening, after they get over the shock of your accomplishments, for people that are listening and want to start something, whether it be physical, whether it be a project, whether it be I'm going to commit to working and launching my blog at night. What have you learned? Is there a way to hack consistency and dedication? Is it the support? Like, what can they do to start finding their own thing?
Yeah. First of all, I don't think there is any shortcut to this. I don't think that you can hack consistency or dedication or training or anything like that.
There's not an app for that?
No. No. And there is a lot of hard work that most people don't even see. When you do these swims, it's just like they watch the live tracker, or it's on the news, and then it's done. But I think if there's something that you really want to do and you're fearful of it and it'll be a huge challenge for you, find someone who's doing that and reach out to them, because I've learned that in most cases, people are very happy to share what they do. And, I think it's about asking for help. And I have learned that was always very, very hard for me to do, but I had to learn the hard way when I was incapacitated with my leg injury. I couldn't even get off the couch to go to the bathroom. When you've had that all stripped away from you, you learn that it's okay to ask for help.
Well, and I think about your leg accident story, and this is something I've personally experienced with my own health, but it's also something that Susanna Scully talks about all the time.
Oh, love her. Yeah, she's awesome.
Right? The universe will whisper, and if you don't start listening, it will shout. And if you still don't listen, it will get a 2x4 and it will smack you in the face.
Yes. And I think that was what happened for me. When I look back at my life, then it was such a superficial life. I was making tons of money, and I look back, I'm like, God, who was that person? So I think the universe has a way of directing us to the course. And I think each of us have a predetermined course, and you can take whatever you see from that. But I now know that I am right where I should be. I know where I'm going. I wake up every day and I pinch myself. I'm like, this is my life, and I am the captain of my own soul.
There's a couple of different quotes around this. Like, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, but it's really the work that you do quietly alone by yourself in the shadows.
Yes. With my swimming, there's nobody like beating on the door saying, hurry up, your ride's here, you're going to swim. That alarm goes off and you're tired and it's dark and everybody else is snuggled up in their warm beds, and you have to get out of bed and you have to just go and do it. Once you're up and once you're out there and you're doing it, you're right where you should be. But it really is this work behind the scenes that nobody sees. And that's also what makes it really special, because you learn very quickly the reasons for which you're doing this. Mm-hmm. If you're doing it for fame and fortune, marathon swimming, for example, you're in the wrong sport. Yeah, you're doing something that fulfills you. You don't get a gold medal in the sport. You don't get a cash prize. But what you get is worth more than that.
So for people that want to learn more, they want to know when your next swim is, they want to get notified of your documentary, where can they find you? How do they follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm Kimberly Swims, and it's the Queen's way of spelling, Ley, Kimberly Swims. And I'm kimswims.com. That's my website. So I have a few adventures up my sleeve, and I'm trying really hard to keep them a secret.
Well, I cannot wait. Thank you so much. You have so much wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. You can follow along on Instagram at womenonamission.co or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or by email on our website, womenonamission.co.